My name is Alex, and I am 32 years old. If you saw me walking down the street, you'd probably think I was just another ordinary guy. Someone with dreams, worries, and a tired face that tries to smile anyway. But what you wouldn't see is the storm that lived inside me for years. I used to believe life had something special for everyone, until everything fell apart. I had a small business, a girlfriend I loved, and a group of friends who always laughed with me. I thought I was building a future. But life has its own plans. It started when my business began to fail. Sales went down, debts started to grow, and I began losing customers one after another. At first, I told myself it was temporary. I worked harder, slept less, tried every idea I could. But nothing worked. Soon, the stress became too heavy, and my girlfriend decided she couldn't handle it anymore. She left. I remember the day she said goodbye. It felt like my heart stopped beating for a second. Suddenly, my house felt empty, my phone silent, and my dreams worthless. That was the first time I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. My eyes were tired, my face older than my age, and my smile completely gone. Weeks turned into months, and I slowly stopped trying. I avoided people, ignored calls, and stayed in bed until noon. My life became a cycle of eating, sleeping, and thinking about everything I'd lost. The more I thought, the deeper I sank into sadness. It was like falling into a dark hole where no one could hear me. One rainy night, I walked outside just to clear my head. The streets were empty. The sound of rain hitting the ground was almost comforting. I walked without direction, just moving, hoping to escape my own thoughts. And then I stopped at the bridge near my old school. I leaned on the cold metal rail and stared down at the water below. The thought hit me quietly. Maybe it would be easier if I just stopped trying, stopped everything. Tears mixed with the rain on my face, and I couldn't tell the difference between them. My body shook, from fear, from cold, from everything I'd kept inside. But then something strange happened. Out of nowhere, I heard a soft voice behind me. "Hey, are you okay?" I turned around and saw an old man standing a few steps away. He was wearing a wet coat, holding a small umbrella that wasn't even protecting him fully. His eyes were kind but serious. He didn't move closer, just stood there, waiting for my answer. I didn't know what to say. I wiped my face quickly and forced a small laugh. "Yeah, I'm fine," I said, but he didn't believe it. He walked closer and said quietly, "Sometimes people say they're fine when they're standing on the edge of giving up." Those words, they hit me harder than anything I'd heard in months. It was like he could see straight through my soul. I looked at him and asked, "How do you know that?" He smiled gently and said, "Because I was once standing in the same place." For a moment, we both stood there in silence, listening to the rain. He didn't ask me why I was there, or what had happened. He just stayed, present, calm, real. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel invisible. The old man took a deep breath and said, "Don't decide your future on a rainy night, my son. Rain always stops, but you have to stay long enough to see the sun again." Then he slowly turned and walked away, disappearing into the darkness. I stood there frozen, watching him go. His words echoed in my head. The rain always stops. I didn't know who he was or why he cared, but that short moment, that single sentence, made me step back from the edge and walk home. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, thinking about everything he said. Maybe he was right. Maybe I had been so focused on what I'd lost that I forgot what I still had. A heartbeat, a chance, and time. I didn't know it then, but that old man would change everything. That was the night something inside me quietly whispered, "Don't give up, Alex. Not yet." The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. For some reason, I couldn't stop thinking about the old man from last night. His words stayed in my head like a song that wouldn't fade away. The rain always stops. Maybe it wasn't just a sentence. Maybe it was a message. I decided to find him. I didn't know his name, where he lived, or even if I would ever see him again. But something inside me told me to try. So, I went back to the bridge where we met. The sky was clear now, bright blue with sunlight shining on the wet ground. It looked like a new beginning. I waited there for almost an hour, watching cars pass and people walk by, but there was no sign of him. Just when I was about to leave, I heard a voice behind me say, "You came back." It was him, the same old man. He smiled as if he had expected me. I smiled back, a little embarrassed. "Yes," I said, "I wanted to thank you. Last night, I was in a really dark place." He nodded. "I know. I've seen that look before. Sit down with me. We sat on a nearby bench. He took out a small paper bag and offered me a sandwich. I hadn't eaten breakfast, so I accepted it with gratitude. He said, "You remind me of myself when I was younger." I looked at him with curiosity. "You said you once stood in the same place. What happened?" He looked at the river silently for a few seconds, then spoke softly. "I lost my family in an accident 20 years ago. My wife and my little daughter. After that, I didn't want to live. I blamed the world, I blamed myself, and I blamed God." I swallowed hard. His words felt heavy. He continued, "One night, just like you, I came to this bridge. I wanted to end it all. But then, a stranger stopped me. He told me the same thing I told you. The rain always stops." And he was right. It did. He turned to me and smiled. I rebuilt my life slowly. I started helping others who were lost because I knew how it felt. Pain doesn't disappear, Alex, but it teaches you how strong you are. I looked down, trying to hold back my tears. All this time, I had thought I was alone in my pain. But this man, this complete stranger, had carried a heavier burden and still found a reason to keep going. Before leaving, he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "When life gets hard, don't ask why me. Ask what can I learn from this." That question changes everything. Then he stood up and walked away slowly. This time, I didn't stop him. I just sat there, watching him disappear again. But now, instead of emptiness, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. After that day, something inside me changed. It wasn't sudden or magical, but it was real. For the first time in months, I felt like maybe I could start again. Even if it was slow, even if it was small. I went home and cleaned my apartment. It might sound simple, but it felt symbolic, like I was cleaning my life, not just my room. I opened the windows, let the sunlight in, and threw away old papers that reminded me of my failures. Every small action felt like a step forward. The next week, I decided to look for work again. My old business had closed, but I still had skills. I just had to believe they were worth something. I applied for a job at a local shop. The owner, a kind woman, said they needed help managing their online orders. It wasn't much, but it was a start. And sometimes, that's all we need, a start. At first, I was nervous. I made mistakes, I worked slowly, but I didn't give up. Whenever things felt difficult, I remembered the old man's words. The rain always stops. And he was right. With time, I improved. The owner began to trust me more, and I even started enjoying my work again. Months passed. I began saving money, going out with friends again, and taking better care of myself. I didn't have a perfect life, but I had peace, and that was something I had never appreciated before. One evening, I decided to visit the bridge again, the same place where I once almost gave up. I stood there, looking at the calm river under the golden sunset. This time, I wasn't sad. I was grateful. I whispered quietly, "Thank you, old man, wherever you are." A small smile appeared on my face, because now I understood what he meant, that sometimes life doesn't need to be perfect to be beautiful. It just needs a little faith and patience. I learned that giving up doesn't end pain, it ends possibilities. And as long as we're still breathing, there's always a chance to rebuild, to grow, to begin again. So if you're listening to this story right now, and you feel tired, lost, or ready to give up, please remember my story. Remember that even on the darkest nights, there's someone, somewhere, who once stood in the same darkness and found the light again. The rain always stops, and maybe your sunrise is just around the corner. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Because sometimes, one story can change a life, just like one person changed mine.